All right, welcome my friends. My name is Chris Rushlow and welcome to this class where I'm going to show you a lot of things that you may have never heard that are very contradictory to what you may have been taught about marketing, about social media marketing. We're gonna dispel some of the myths and actually show the differences between how more traditional style marketing has been tried to essentially transferred to social media and why it's like fitting a square peg into a round hole, right? Just doesn't fit. And the translations that we need in order to have sustainable ads, right? So ultimately, how we're getting 2x to 5x qualified customers with our ads using human written but AI assisted methodologies this year, not last year, not the years before, how we're still maintaining momentum, how we are getting around some of the volatility of what advertisers are experiencing. So buckle up, stay with me, and this is visual, so you can't just listen. You really want to see the screen and see what I'm walking you through, because we have lots and lots of visuals. I'm not one to put tons of bullet points on slides. There's a couple of them to kind of outline things, but other than that, you're going to see a lot of cool stuff here, and we're going to prove all of it. So if this is you as a business owner or agency, advertiser right now, your cost to acquire a customer is rising, your conversion rates, lots of volatility up and down. One day it's good, another day it's not. All right, can't get traction there. Sales from lead gen slowing down. Generative AI, which is cool, but at the same time, we'll get into why, and some of the pitfalls and downfalls and the traps of AI, and we're going to help you with that. And then, of course, your results are inconsistent. Typically, what we get when most people come to us to consult us, because we have a lot of agencies and businesses that come to us and want to get our strategy right, want to get the messaging right, want to get all of those things, the optimization right. And what we see the biggest is inconsistency, right? And there's a lot of reasons for that. I'm going to walk you through some of those here. So, essentially this is what frustrated business owners are coming to us right now. They're struggling with. So just so you know, to put your mind at ease, this works for every type of offer, except non-compliant offers, of course. And of course, it really does, because what we're doing here is psychology, not necessarily, hey, I understand this particular niche. We have spent tens of millions, if not 100 million or so more, on Facebook over the years with clients, lots of different clients and consulting clients, on just looking at their stuff, looking at their ads and consulting them. Some of them we've ran, some of them we've just consulted. And so we've seen cumulatively hundreds of millions, and we've tested on tens of millions our process, and we can translate it to anything. And we've seen it, and we've done it with hundreds of different offers, hundreds of different verticals and niches. So rest assured, we can pretty much translate this to just about anything, and we have, right? So it doesn't work based on one niche or offer where people think that specialty of like, hey, get, specifically for plumbers or something like that. That's one level of expertise, but we actually know how to arrive at that messaging for any particular offer. So stay with me. I think this will really help. And just so you know, our methods translate to every niche on Facebook or IG. And also you can take this messaging and transfer it to other places, multi-channel, YouTube, TikTok, Spotify, even if you want to do audio ads, and many other places as well. So just real quick, handful of our clients and customers, past and present, been in marketing online since 2009, tens of millions in social media ad spend. We specialize in messaging and what we like to call social media copywriting. And social media copywriting is a little bit different than traditional copywriting. It works a little differently, but it's translated for social media, which results in more sustainable ads. And I'll get into why that is here in a minute. So just so you know, this is just like this year, just months ago, the last screenshot I got, like I said, we're spending almost a couple million on all of our different accounts, right? That's just one business manager. Here's another business manager where there's another million. So literally that's like almost 3 million just right now what we're spending, okay? And so this is what we've tested this stuff on. So stay with me. This is going to get fun. Watch this, okay? Main strategies we're going to cover today. One is the gift and the curse with AI generated ads that we've witnessed so far over the year. How the Facebook IG ad auction system works, causing most ads to stop working, and the thing you need to do to avoid it, right? So that you can continue to have ads that run that don't burn out, right? And also how the social media algorithm works to optimize for the right prospects. It's a lot more than you think. It's not just oh, you did this, and so we're going to feed you this. No, it's so much more than that. And so we'll get into it. All right. So first things first, let's get into a note, about what AI is really happening. The gift and the curse, right? The thing that people need to understand is AI only emulates and regurgitates what it sees, right? But to differentiate and stand out, the writer needs to know how to talk to the machine and, more importantly, what to look for, right? So here's what I want you to think about with this on the right. You see this? This has essentially, look at it this way, like the population of people and then the skill and experience, right? So, well, in all reality, that should be switched. Skill and experience up here, population down here. I wrote this out quickly. So you've got essentially novices, amateurs, then adepts, and then pros and masters. And what this essentially means here, this line is what the population is over here of people and where they fall, right? So skill and experience, you got novices, amateurs, adepts, pros, and masters. And here's the issue. Because AI, now, I think it's a great thing. I'm fascinated and blown away by some of the things it's able to do, but most of those things are more around speed of implementation, not necessarily expertise, right? You got to really need to learn how to talk to it, how to feed the beast, the right inputs so you get the right outputs. And then you got to know what to look for, right? Which is the output. So here's the difference really. What most AI generated ads result in is what, they can equivocate what amateurs do, right? They copy a lot of things, they emulate it, and they can say, well, okay, these particular statements are emotional statements, but it doesn't actually understand how to tie that around and empathize and understand the right emotional or feeling context to something. And so it can feel off, right? And we just see that happen a lot. So when someone's relying on the AI to do the heavy lifting for them, in terms of the actual influence, it doesn't work too well. And essentially you deal with amateurish style stuff. And this is what we also call a race to the middle, right? Where someone who's a beginner might be able to use AI to get just a little bit better, but also the other side of it is that people will get lazy, try to use it too much and not think through it and actually create good content because they don't know what to really look for. So it kind of makes the better people worse, and it makes the people who are beginners and starting out just a little bit better. So there's often this savior mentality where someone says, oh, I'm just going to have AI do everything for me. Big mistake. We've had many agencies try to implement everything fully with AI, and they still, in order to make it work, have to have humans who edit stuff, review stuff, rewrite stuff, make sure it's good, although they're able to move a little faster. So we want you to not waste your time here, all right? But just understand, AI brains do not have emotional intelligence to write copy that actually moves people. They're just emulating, right? They're just emulating what they see on the internet, all right? And the other thing is if you tell it to write a Facebook ad, it just really falls into a trope that is very, very typical. And I'll show you why that particular trope and the way that it writes those ads is even worse for you, okay? So stay with me, all right? So here's the thing. We're masters. We've been doing this, and we've developed methods that work better than anything I've seen. We've stayed here while others have kind of jumped to new shiny objects, new platforms, new opportunities, all of that. And we planted our flag here, and we made sure to really master social media messaging, right? And we can apply that to anywhere, to any social media platform, right? But when we learn to talk to the machine properly, we create better copy, right? And so what that really makes happen is we've got more of a masterful approach. There's not many people down here at the pros and masters, right? Most of the people that teach stuff is over here. It's kind of the middle of the road high school diploma, right? This over here is your master's degree, doctorate's degree. That's what these people do over here. That's what we do, right? And I'll show you some of the differences to why. I'm pretty sure you'll agree with me by the end of it, okay? So just understand, this training illustrates the pitfalls of how marketers completely screw up AI-generated ads and how to make them work, okay? So with that in mind, this is the common thing that when agencies come to us, they see this, right? This is kind of like the ads work for a while, sometimes maybe even a week. Typically it's a day or two, but they go off the rails and they don't get consistent results, right? And so what I want you guys to understand is there's a reason for that, okay? So here we go. how the ad auction system works that causes most ads to stop working, right? So here's the big thing that a lot of people do not understand, and this is different from traditional direct response marketing. The algorithm has a feedback loop, all right? It calculates which ads continue to get quality impressions and which ones do not, okay? So look at it this way. Your bid, right? That's kind of what you control. And then there's this piece about it that is a feedback loop that says the estimated action rate. And that's based on its history, how well what it estimates the conversion rate will be for whatever you're optimizing for. So if you're optimizing for lead, what's that rate of conversion from clicking the link on the ad to opting in, right? And if that is lower, that estimated action rate goes down. If it's high, then the estimated action rate goes up. So there's a correlation to your conversion rate, okay? That's one side of it. The other side of it is consumer experience, which is more of the quality score and also the feedback loop, which is the negative and positive feedback that you get, which is very important for the ads. Although we kind of have to focus on making sure we eliminate negative feedback because that just tanks ads, right? But we'll get into that, right? And what that is. So when you have these things, all these together, that's what gives you your total value. And that's what you're really bidding with, right? Because every single placement, every single impression is going through a little micro auction where it's bidding for that impression. And you get, hundreds of millions of those auctions a day for every single placement that happens. There's an auction where different people who have ads running are bidding, but what they're bidding with is these mostly, not necessarily their bid. That's a part of it, but it's more so what's going to work here. This is the difference between you winning the auction and getting the placement versus somebody else. This is the difference between you outbidding your competition and winning. Okay. So stay with me. So as we said, it's not only your bid, but the total value. Okay. And this is Facebook's auction, right? Which every other major social media platform has modeled for their ad system. With the exception of Google, they have their own ad service system, but just about every other one, Nextdoor, Spotify, there's so many of them that model exactly Facebook's interface, Facebook IG, okay? And so they're all pretty much like modeled, and most of them have basically hired away people from Facebook who worked on these, and they've set them up and done the same thing with the same system in other places. So the great thing is you can use this for lots of different platforms, all right? So estimated action rate, consumer experience, very important for you to understand. It's internal calculations, right? You're not going to see these action rates. Now, there are some metrics that give you a good idea that you can correlate, right? And I'm going to show you those. However, this is not something you can just say, okay, well, what is my estimated action rate or what is my consumer experience? That's an internal thing for Facebook. And they used to show more of it, but I think for the fact that I've been teaching people for years to look at these particular things, they decided to hide it because I think people could game the system too easily once they understood it, right? So the primary factor in the estimated action rate, real simple. It's the ad, link, click, landing page. Let's say they're generating buying something, right? They go to a landing page and they buy something, and you've got the thank you page here. And that conversion rate is 2%, right? Well, if most ads that are bidding in the same auction are typically getting something higher than a 2% in that conversion rate, you're going to start losing auctions, because what that does is it lowers your estimated action rate. You start to lose auctions, right? It's one of the biggest factors, okay? And so what that does is that lowers your overall total value, right? So you always want to make sure your offer is really dialed in, but then also make sure you do all you can in your ad, in your body copy, to pre-qualify and pre-sell what you have so that by the time somebody clicks that link in your ad, they're going to convert at a higher rate. And that is one of the biggest things that we do that really help people scale past their competition, because we can increase conversion rates significantly because we don't look at it as a place just to get cheap clicks, right? That's the wrong mentality for social media. And I'm going to explain the rest of why here as we go through this, okay? So when the conversion rate is higher, right, landing page, and let's say, you double your conversion rate, if the average advertiser who's bidding for those same impressions to the same target audience, if their conversion rate is 3% or 3.5% and yours is 4%, more than likely you're going to win, right? You're going to actually win. You're going to be able to understand that you can scale better, right? So real quickly, one of the things that's a little bit different here that is very counterintuitive, so you understand how we do this, is that you want to have an ad that's not so status quo and typical, right? Typically an ad, most typical ads, they have very small text. They do a couple lines and a crappy creative, and then they try to get the cheapest click possible, and then they go for, trying to let their sales message do all the heavy lifting. Instead, we do a lot of the pre-selling and heavy lifting inside the ad, which is very counterintuitive because everybody wants to get that cheap click and as many as possible. You don't want that, right? It's because of this conversion rate, right? If you're trying to do this, then you're literally on a hamster wheel. If you think about it differently and you want to get more of an ad that engages, pre-qualifies, and pre-sells people for higher conversion rates, then you're talking about a higher conversion rate, higher estimated action rate, and ultimately what that causes, right, is a higher score. Because, why does this work so well? Well, we have a particular formula. We call it our EPIC formula, right? And it's developed from clinical research on how humans make decisions. It's actually from the trans-theoretical model of human behavior. And so we've essentially used that to follow a natural decision-making process in our ads that's very not salesy. In fact, you don't even feel like you're being sold at all, but it just increases conversion rates because it sets people up to win. And in fact, we've even done this all inside the ad and gone directly to checkout pages and have gone around sales pages and made this work for lower priced offers really well. Okay. So ultimately, when you get that higher conversion rate, that estimated action rate goes up, which essentially, makes your total value go up and you start to win other auctions. And this is one of the main reasons how you're able to outbid your competition. Even if they're spending more money, you have a better score. So you're winning more auctions. It's not about trying to just spend more than the other. You just need to be able to have better scores and have a good feedback loop happening. Okay. So let's go to consumer experience for a minute. This is the other part. And this is not the quality ranking you see in Ads Manager. Okay. Just so you know. And of course we don't know the real score, but we do know what affects this quality score, okay? And that is these particular things. Consumer experience is calculated by how people respond to your ad, okay? They're the behaviors that people take. So what someone does when they first see your ad is being paid attention to by Facebook, IG. How they choose to consume your content is a part of it, is a factor. How much of the ad they consume is a factor, and what actions they take after they consume it. And then, of course, the biggest is the negative or positive triggers that raise or lower your consumer experience score. Do you want to know what those are? If you do, tune in. They're right here. Negative triggers affecting consumer experience is when someone, this is the least one though, ignore and keep scrolling, which is okay, but you don't want too many people like that. Then people go in there and they click hide ad, or they report it as spam. You know what I'm talking about. They click that little button, right? And the little 3 dots on their phone, stop seeing posts from this page. The other thing is if there's a video and you don't watch it, that's also a negative trigger, right? So these are all negative feedback triggers. They negatively affect the user value score, especially the feedback when they give hide ad or report a spam or stop seeing posts, right? Because that's what happens here. Like I just grabbed a few, random ones in my news feed, and here's the issue, right? So this is what most ads do wrong and why their consumer experience drops the most, right? That drops the most when, which is very counterintuitive, you lead by being too direct, by asking intrusive self-identification questions or call-outs, right? So you see things like typical things like attention avatar, attention business owner, attention course creators, attention coaches, right? Or something like, are you an agency owner, or do you struggle with this? Are you frustrated with, lead generation? Are you frustrated with your home plumbing? Looking to sell your home? Realtors love to say that. Oh my God. I gave a full presentation to realtors and they were shocked. They were like, we've been doing everything wrong. Yeah, no kidding. Okay. So what actually happens in the mechanics of this, right? This is what people do. They click that little button right here, like the little 3 dots. And then this little thing comes up. The hide ad, report ad, right? You notice how it's like a self-identification question up top? Want to know the secret? Come on, you can do better, guys. So because you're trying to talk directly to people, which is typically what most ads try to do, you irritate and annoy people. So they click those three dots, they hide the ad, they report the ad, they stop, seeing all posts, hide all posts. And if they report, they pretty much lie about you because they just want to be right? And the problem is these two actions above are the absolute killer of any momentum your ad could ever get. So this is a big deal, and this is what most people see. So the blind lead the blind when they see these ads in their newsfeed, and everyone tries to be like everybody else. But when everyone tries to follow everyone else, everyone ends up looking the same, and there's no differentiation. And voila, that's why you're dealing with ads that aren't able to grow and scale. Okay? So this is one of the reasons why you've got to change your verbiage. You've got to change your languaging. Okay? So let me quickly show you how we found this out. Now, this was from a couple years ago, right? On an ad that we did really well. This particular ad built a lot of, one of our businesses. They used to show you the amount of negative feedback when you went to your posts, right? And you see it down here where it says negative feedback, and it literally reports like how many times my post was hidden, how many times it was reported as spam, how many times someone said hide all post or unlike the page. Those are those 4 negative feedback metrics. The issue is you only see these with organic posts on your wall now, but they don't show it to you for any post or ad that you create. So that kind of, really sucks, but I think it's because I kept on teaching people, check your negative feedback. You want to make sure that you don't have high feedback. And if you do, here's why, change it up, right? And so I think Facebook was like, yeah, let's not give people that advantage anymore. So you're welcome. I probably was the one responsible for taking that away, right? But it's because I was on the cutting edge of understanding this and having conversations with Facebook engineers and tech support and understanding more of this algorithm and what goes on with it, okay? So moving right along, when negative triggers happen on your ad, it affects your consumer experience. Your total value drops, and you lose auctions because your overall total value, which is really what you are, bidding with, goes down. So you start to lose auctions. You don't get the premium traffic. You get kind of like I don't like to call it second and third tier traffic because that's not true, but you get people you get the leftovers. You get the people who are less likely to convert or less likely to take the action that you have actually been optimizing for. And so it's harder to convert and you have to spend more for an acquisition, right? So translation, if you do those things, your ads eventually stop getting results, right? Low auction scores, lose auctions for the most likely to convert impressions, right? This forces you to duplicate your ads or restart them all the time. And that is why we don't want to continue doing that. So just understand the sad reality, okay? Marketers believe frequently restarting ads is just normal, but it's not. It's a sign of low auction scores. That's all, okay? So let's figure out how to fix this. Okay, so 1, in order not to screw this up, you need a different translation of ad copy, okay? Some rules of old copywriting still apply, most don't, okay? It's more of an expression, right? Many other rules do not apply on social media platforms. So many approach the platform using things that are counterproductive like traditional direct response style headlines. For some reason, they just don't work. So if you buy like all these formulas, most of them are based off of originally having banner ads or they were headlines that were used in newsletters for financial newsletters when you would get all those long copy, long letters, 30-page sales letters in the mail. That's where a lot of that was developed from, but that doesn't translate to social media the way people think they do, right? So the other thing is people think they can use magic words like secret or best or better or, amazing or, things like that people don't really react to anymore because they've seen so much of it everywhere that superlatives, which are not really quantifiable or measurable, they don't work that well. But this is one of the biggest problems people use. They start to use as many adverbs and superlatives as they can, right? And all that does is get in the way of setting proper context. And they look hypey, right? We don't need hype at all, right? So one of the other things people do is the avatar callouts, like you saw, attention business owners, attention coaches. That's like there's no context. Like, let's talk about what a coach needs, what a coach is trying to avoid, what they're wanting to move towards, what are the constraints and challenges and obstacles in front of them. Let's talk about those things instead, right? Direct language. This is the killer, right? Trying to talk directly to them in their news feed it causes way more negative feedback. Direct language is not the native language of Facebook or IG. You need to use more editorial voice, like a newspaper. That's why they call it the news feed, right? Because you're using editorial voice that's not direct. That way people don't give so much negative feedback, okay? And then, of course, direct questions, because you're not having a one-on-one conversation. The problem is some people will respond to this direct language and this direct questions. But the real issue is that these two things cause more negative feedback than positive feedback. So sure, you may get 1 or 2 out of 100 to respond, but the problem is the other 98%, a high number of them are giving negative feedback, and it's actually causing reverse optimization and your ads to not work too well. So it's not that it's wrong, and it does get a result, but it does not get really good optimal results like what we do. Okay? So stay with me. All right? In case this is not very clear yet, direct language is not native to social media news feeds. What people really do is they rant, they tell stories, they complain about things, and of course, food porn, right? They post pictures of their food when they eat out of restaurants, right? And so they're not necessarily trying to talk to somebody like, are you doing this? Are you doing that? It's like, hey, I'm doing this. Here's how I do this. Look at what I'm doing. This is what we do. This is what we've done. We're talking more in first person or third person, never second person, because second person is when you're bringing somebody through a process and you're saying, well, when you get this, you get this. When you have this, you experience this. When you go to try this, you experience this. And you're using a bunch of you words, direct language. And for the small amount of people that this may be relevant to, that's okay. But the problem is, once again, so that you understand, it has more of a negative consequence. It's kind of like, it was said to me when I was a kid working in the family business. They said, one screw up takes away 10 attaboys. And it's very true. And it's the same thing here, that if you start to accumulate negative feedback, it starts to tank your ad scores really fast. So you need to use more of this indirect language that is more of editorial voice, right? So that's what this is. To reduce your negative feedback, we need to eliminate these mistakes from our ads. Never ask a direct question in any headline or intro. I know this is very counterintuitive for you, but I promise you, we've been doing it for years and years. It's tested on millions of ad spend. I promise you it works better, right? Along with all the people that have tried it and they come back and say, you're right, okay? Avoid common direct response tropes like attention coaches or attention business owners, things like that, attention course creators, because you look like everyone else. Stop copying people. Look novel, look different, look original. And we've got some formulas for that, things that you can put together that help you understand how to do that better, right? Do not write in second person because it is too direct and impersonal and you get a bunch of negative feedback, right? Never say you in your headlines and intros. Always gets more negative feedback, okay? So I literally have a rule in my agency. If any of my copywriters submits an ad that has a direct question in the headline up here, they're fired on the spot. That's how serious I am about this, because we know how to make it work better. Okay. We don't want to be like everybody else. We actually want to differentiate. And what we have found with AI is that AI causes less differentiation, because all AI is doing is emulating and copying what it sees. And here's the crazy thing. If you ask, let's say ChatGPT, right? There's many, many, many others. But if you ask ChatGPT, write me a Facebook ad about this. Do you know what happens? The first thing they do, you'll notice in the copy, in the ad copy, is that they say, are you, and it's a question like, are you frustrated with this? Are you looking to overcome this? Are you looking to sell your house? Like, it's all of these direct questions right away. Why does ChatGPT do that? Because it sees that most ads are like that. That should be your first indication of what not to do, because we are all about, in a very crowded marketplace, differentiation. And I'm sorry, AI can help you get there, but it can't do it for you. Okay? All right. So When you get positive triggers on your ad, okay, so when you actually get higher scores and you do things the way we teach, this raises your consumer experience, which means your total value rises. You see that? And it makes your total value go up, okay? So what are those positive triggers? One, it's like they stop the scroll, they read your ad, they click see more to read the body copy of your ad or your post. They click the link or the button, obviously. They also engage, like, react, or share, or save the post. If you have a video, they watch a larger portion of, if not all of the video. And completion rate, which is essentially a conglomeration of all these things, right? These behaviors positively affect consumer experience, all right? So, in summary, when you keep estimated action rate and consumer experience higher than others, then your ads win auctions, okay? You do not have to restart ads all the time. Your ads consistently run with results that get better because they're optimizing over time. And in the next section, I'm going to explain to you why this actually happens this way. Okay, it's called hyper-optimization. I'm going to show you what this is. Okay, stay with me. How social media algorithms optimize for the right audiences, right? And this is actually, I believe, 3. So here's the difference. What most ads do is they're not very specific or contextual, so you waste a lot of ad spend. What we're looking to do is to be very, very relevant so that we allow the algorithm to go and find more people a lot easier, okay? So for one, let's address the biggest fallacy that kills the algorithm's ability to find prospects. And that's what I've talked about, the avatar call-out approach. Why does it not work? It's because of these things. No pain point. Okay, if you just say attention coaches, right, then you're starting with a, kind of like a who, me, rather than like here's what coaches need, where a coach would be like, I want to know what that is. So no pain point, no specific benefit, no challenge or constraint overcome, no obstacle overcome, no display of authority, and no anchored feeling. These are all the things you want to start with, not some kind of call out that makes you look like everybody else. I think you're getting me now, right? So here's what happens from an optimization standpoint when you do something like this, or use some of the other, have some of the other negative triggers happen on your ad. Sure, you may get lots of clicks, but then you get very few that convert. When the marketing message is really broad, like attention, avatar instead of specific elements, then very few convert. Your estimated action rate drops. Your ad defaults to low quality impressions, leads to low quality prospects. You don't want that, okay? But when you get specific with what's important to them, then now we're cooking with grease. All right. So check this out, right? So I just put this together real quick. But what I want you to see here is we flip this around instead of trying to have a direct conversation. And I say something like how we, right, inclusive language, take burnt out ads, which is more of the what they don't want, to a daily 2 to 5x return, which is what they do want on ad spend, right? Return on ad spend, even when, and then what stops them when we increase our budget every day. Which someone's like, well, if they're not working, I wouldn't as sure as heck be increasing my budget every day. So it's very much a juxtaposition when someone's like, wow, I can still increase my budget every day doing this? Holy crap, right? And so what I've done is, notice I've asked no question. There's no, the word you is not in there. And we're not doing any call outs, right? So this is what's relevant to somebody who is running ads, right? But it's not necessarily saying, are you a business owner? It's what so many people do. It's so funny, right? So notice above that instead of talking directly, we use inclusive language. We or I, okay? That's full context, all right? So let's continue on. Context qualifies a better prospect. So Facebook's machine learning finds the best qualified users, all right? Better qualified prospects, less wasted ad spend, higher conversion rates, sustainable ads, and that's your foundation for scaling. Okay, so when you have a contextual message, when it sets full context, right, where you have at least 3 or 4 message points, or what we call elements that get specific, right, we have much higher click rates, but also here's what actually happens. You get qualified clicks because you're talking more specifically to a person that's like, hey, that's me. Okay, so you get better results. What happens is you have higher conversions, which give you an estimated action rate that increases. And once you have that, then the algorithm optimizes to the right prospects, leading to a higher converting sale or acquisition. Okay? I'm going to show you how to do that context here in a moment. But first, I need you to understand how this works so that you know how to work it. Okay? All right. Here's the thing. Facebook IG has over millions of data points attributed to each user profile that it uses to determine who to show your ads to. All right? Albeit it may not be as powerful before Apple privacy, which we have a fix for that, but it's still super powerful, which is why it's still, as many people try to poo-poo it and talk bad about it, it's still literally the platform that gets the most traffic, right? Most converting traffic, best costing traffic, okay? Because they understand, they know all websites you visit, all your messenger conversations, they may listen to your phone, they know what you buy, they know more about you than your best friend or your partner, really, right? So look at it this way. Look at this as a profile, okay? This is millions of data points, right? So let's just say each of these is a data point, right? This is like all the websites they visit. This is the things they buy. This is the interests they have. This is messenger conversations. You know, this is what they click on, you know, what they spend their time reading, you know, what videos they watch. So when they understand that about you, they can start to use their predictive analytics and AI to determine and predict who's most likely to convert, right? So how about we help Facebook with that? Well, why broad messaging does not work well, right? It's because when you do something broad and you don't use specific messaging, you're only using a couple data points, like one data point. If you said attention business owners or attention coaches, then essentially the one point you have is a coach. Now you're not even telling Facebook how to go find it, or IG, right? You're only using one context point. And when you do this, when you are not specific, this means the algorithm can never utilize its machine learning to find better qualified people to show the ad to. So here's the difference. When your ad is specific to the right person, the algorithm identifies many different data attributions inside the profiles of those who click, as evidenced by what you see here with these different profile pieces, right? They're like, okay, now we're talking because we can be more specific about a certain person who's going to respond to this, okay? Now, the algorithm uses machine learning to find better qualified people, all right? So this is how you affect it, because Facebook, Instagram's algorithm has a text scanner, right? So they scan all the text, even if you have text in the creative, they scan that too. And based on the text, that's who they decide to show the ad to. So they actually read your ad and go, well, based on what you said, we think these particular people are going to respond to it. So that's how it optimizes so well, especially with a lot of you using, like people say, just use broad, right? Don't even use targeting, but just let the algorithm figure it out. The reason that can work is when you use specific messaging, okay? When you use specific message points, data sets, message sets, right? So what does that look like? When you have a specific message, your ad gets shown to increasingly qualified people the longer it runs, because it develops a profile of the main common reoccurring data points of the people who are converting on your ad. What it does is it makes it more efficient at finding people, and they have to go through less people who won't convert to get to the people who are more likely to convert, which therefore gives you better costs because you're not going to people who are less likely to convert. And this is why our ads also run consistently for months, provided you have, you know, decent targeting and a large enough audience. So that's kind of like the profiling that the algorithm does. And it takes a snapshot of every single person who clicks and starts to develop profiles like this very fast. In fact, it almost does it too fast. Okay. So here's the other thing. So what we do is we identify elements, right? So as you can see here, here's the headline formula up top, and we have these particular elements in here, right? And so as you can see, as a Facebook ad agency, that was one element. We have, right, there's the next element, witness sudden algorithm shifts. That's an element. It's a specific piece. It's more of like what you don't want, right? And here's what we've done to get even better leads, which is more of the what I do want, right? So there's elements in there that we always make sure are present that are accomplishing the psychological things that someone needs to make a decision to move forward, okay? And if you look at CTR alls, right, like these are high. Like the average CTR all on Facebook is between 1 and 2%. And that's CTR all. CTR links, the average CTR link is like 0.6 to 0.8. Look at what these are, okay? Look at this one, 15.58, 6.46. So that's 100 out of 6.5 out of 100 people clicking a link. That is insane for Facebook, way above normal, okay? That's just proof of the type of context we set just gets so many more people to respond, which helps you win those auctions with that consumer experience and that conversion rate so much faster and more efficiently, okay? So we use element formulas, and what we've really done is we've got 9 primary elements. Now, the ones I showed you earlier was essentially what you don't want, what you want, and what stops them from getting it, right? That's essentially the pain, the benefit, and the challenge, right? The pain and the challenge is a little bit confusing for people, but just understand the pain is the initial thing that whatever you have is causing you pain. The challenge is typically the problem with other solutions or the mental obstacle you have before deciding to move forward, right? And so those are 2 separate and distinct things, and we need to make sure that we have both properly defined, right? So it's a methodical process that eliminates wasted ad spend. We have one of our processes called the PBC process. Obviously, the PBC is pain, benefit, challenge, right? And it's a particular testing methodology to identify these elements in the right combinations that work well, okay? So let me give you a real quick example here, right? So you see this one here with all the elements. Let me show you what those elements actually are. This was an ad that worked really, really well, right? So there's a benefit. Why benefit? Okay, why getting leads and sales? Like leads was the benefit. Ultimate benefit, which is kind of the reason why you want what you want, is sales from Facebook. Is not difficult, which is more of a, what you don't want, right? Pain, internal conflict, is not difficult when properly using the algorithm, which is the mechanism we have, which is using the algorithm properly. How do we do that? Well, I showed you the basics of it already on what not to do and some of the things you want to do, and I'm showing you what you need to do right now with defining particular elements. Your mechanism is just the unique thing that you do that makes your offer different than others, okay? So why benefit and ultimate benefit is not internal conflict when mechanism, right? I can use this formula over and over and over again with many, many different niches, and it's worked for years, okay? So I'll give you another one here with a particular cat stain remover, cat pee, right? And that's actually my cat in here. We actually took pictures with my cat, and that picture actually worked really well. But they're called Perfect Potion, right? So like, you see we've got a stack of pains, right? And, cat pee, puke, spray, and even odor, right? And even pain 4, right? So we have 4 different pains in there and never comes back. Evaporates it and never comes back because a lot of the, stain removers out there are salt-based and you kind of scrub them, but then, they freeze a lot of it in place and dry it out rather than really removing it, so they come back later on a really humid day, right? So we're overcoming that challenge because that's what a lot of the other solutions are out there. No need to scrub or wipe, just spray and walk away, right? That's our mechanism, what makes it different, spray and walk away, okay? So you can see these are all very formulaic. We just have to define these things beforehand, right? And there's many more than just what I'm showing you here, but it's a good start, right? One of our ones with financial advisors, right? From stuck to 7 figures as a financial advisor, here's how modern mentorship paves the way for, benefit 1 and 2, freedom and growth, right? So you see that these things really, really help. And here's one we did when we were running digital marketers ads for a while. It's kind of a throwback. It was before they changed to the only 3 lines in the news feed, but see how it is, a one-hit wonder campaign into a customer factory. See how we anthropomorphized it, right? Endlessly generates new customers, repeat buyers, right? So it's all there, right? So it's just these formulas. So now that we know how to set context to attract the right people, how do we convert them at a higher rate? And that's a little bit of what I told you before. Remember this? the engagement continuum, you got to make sure that you unpack these elements in your body copy and you really go through this, right? You make sure you talk about that pain in your body copy. You talk about that solution and the benefits to it, and then overcome challenges. You need to do all of those things in your body copy. So that's the major difference, okay? When you do that, right, then you've got something like this, which gets you a lot more sales, right? And it kind of looks a little bit more like this, like it does more of the heavy lifting, right? Gives you more qualified buyers. So when you get more qualified buyers, guess what happens? Estimated action rate goes up. Total value, okay? So your body copy is still very important, and it's very counterintuitive because some people are trying to get people to click right away, and we're like, no. We do everything we can to keep them on the platform to click see more and read the rest of the ad, right? Do they want to click see more, read the rest of the ad, and then click because they're going to convert higher? This is one of the things that so many people don't get and they don't understand, right? And you raise your estimated action rate by doing this without messing with your funnel, without changing your landing page, right? All you're doing is pre-selling, okay? So, you can pay less with your bid, and you can start bidding with your estimated action rate and your consumer experience when you do ads like this, okay? Gives you a higher total value here, right? This is how this little guy beats the big guy. This is how David beats Goliath, right? And this is what we've done with smaller businesses who haven't had a major budget, but they were able to gain massive traction and eventually turn into Goliath and outbid their competition, okay? So in summary, when you keep both of these higher, then you get these things, just like we said before, okay? So here's what it really comes down to. When you have higher value auctions, right? I don't like that needs to, right? Higher value auctions. You've got hyper optimization like we talked about. You use headline formulas and elements together, right? And then you use epic ad psychology, which is our formula for body copy, and it leads to 2 to 5x results. Better consistency, better lead quality, higher conversion rates, winning more auctions, lower cost per sale, higher ROAS and ROI, lower retargeting costs because you're getting more people per click to be on your engagement list, right? Because you have higher engagement rates, right? So you get to retarget more people, okay? And sustainable scaling. So essentially, how do we start, right? Where do you start to really do this? Well, the first thing you need to really do is define your PBC. Well, how do you do that? You have to test it, okay? So look at it this way. We hold workshops every so often, about every quarter or so. And we do this process where we build the ad and the elements based off the data. It's a 3-phased approach, but here's the difference, right? Most testing budgets are wasted on a flawed top-down approach, right? So what that means is most agencies and business owners that come to me, they go and brainstorm a bunch of ads and hooks, right? They brainstorm all of that, and then they throw it all together up here, and they throw it all against the wall to see what sticks. And what happens is they waste about 90% of it, right? About 90% doesn't work. So they've wasted 90% of their budget. And then what do? They see the little bit that worked and go, okay, let's create a bunch more that's more like that. And so then they go and spend more and waste a bunch of their budget and maybe get 20% out of that works well, but they're still wasting another 80%. This is super cost prohibitive, but this is literally what I see everybody do. And then eventually they don't have much left when they finally get an ad that really goes because they're already saying, well, we're running out of budget. It's not smart to do this, okay? What we found out instead is that we start by building the ad data point by data point with smaller spend that's much more efficient, and we get what the data tells us, and then we add on permutations of our elements to test in the right order with the right optimizations, with the right isolation, with the right factors. Okay, this is very nuanced, okay? It's not easy to try and do yourself. You won't get it right unless you understand how to work and make it work, and that's what we do in our workshops. No one's been able to successfully try to do it just by thinking they can go do it, right? There's too many steps to it. But what happens is then eventually you've built your PBC frame, which then allows you to define your other elements. And by this time, you're really making money even as you're testing, because you're just literally optimizing forward and building messages off the data. Okay. So this is the main key thing. And this is where you start. So if you want to join us in one of these workshops, then wherever you're seeing this video, there's probably a button below that takes you to the full page for our message mapping workshop, which is where we do our PBC process. Okay. We used to call it our PBC process workshop. We just call it message mapping because it's more relevant, right? And you can find out if it works for you, if you want to join us and be a part of it. And from there, on that workshop, we walk you through that actual process. We do daily live calls for 2 weeks as you go through this process, which typically takes like 10 to 14 days. And then we equip you with the formulas and the other elements and extra additional training that helps you make all this work. So if you want to know more about that, if you're seeing this maybe in your news feed, click the button below, learn more, whatever, go to the page, get the rest of the details, join us. I'll see you on the inside.